Ground Packaging System Incorporated. They're being represented this morning by Mr. John Saul. Mr. Saul has his operations manager, Mr. Jason McNulty, on hand to provide testimony. Mr. Saul, there was a conversation that I did have with the claimant. I did not want it to be considered an ex parte communication, so I will advise you of the conversation. The claimant asked if he could submit some type of recording he had, some type of evidence he states that he has for today's hearing. I denied the claimant's request to submit that information because the notice of telephone hearing, I have a copy of it in the record. It was forwarded to both parties. There's no indication of any error in mailing or any error in the parties receiving this notice of telephone hearing. On the notice of telephone hearing, it advises both parties that if evidence is to be submitted for today's hearing, it needed to be submitted to the administrative law judge prior to the date of the hearing. With that in mind, I will not entertain any evidence that was not submitted before April 12, 2017. So that was the nature of our conversation. Mr. Saul, I have the claimant, Mr. DeAndrian Coleman. Mr. Coleman will be representing himself. No other claimant witnesses will be called to testify. With that being said, this open docket number 005063 AT2017. This telephone hearing is being conducted on Wednesday, April 12, 2017 by Administrative Law Judge Tracy Davis. The claimant appellant, Mr. DeAndrian Coleman, is participating in the hearing. The employer, FedEx Ground Packaging System Incorporated, is also participating, being represented today by Mr. John Saul. In this case, the claimant has appealed an agency determination which assessed a disqualification for benefits effective November 3rd, 2016 through February 10th, 2018. The claimant left employment when he failed to report back to work. The claimant's leaving was without good cause attributable to a substantial change made to the employment by the employer. On the notice of telephone hearing for today's hearing, the parties were advised that the issue to be considered here today is whether the claimant left employment with legal good cause. The purpose of today's hearing is to give the participating parties an opportunity to present evidence and testimony in this matter. I will assist in this process by asking questions of the parties. I will begin my questioning with the claimant as we do in leaving situations. I will follow up with questions to the employer's representative. The claimant and employer's representative will also have an opportunity to ask questions of each other and the employer's witness when he is called to testify. They will also be given an opportunity to make final statements before today's hearing is closed. After the hearing is conducted today, I will render a decision. A copy of that decision will be forwarded to both parties. Should either party disagree with my decision, there will be further appeal rights included at the conclusion of that decision. Today's hearing is being recorded. It is important that we speak as clearly as possible and that only one of us speak at a time. All testimony today will be taken under oath or affirmation. Mr. Coleman, do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name and mailing address for the record.
DeAndrian Coleman, 48124 Stafford Road, Tickfall, Louisiana, 70466.
Do you understand the hearing procedures and appeal rights which have been explained?
Yes.
And I'll move to Mr. Saul. Mr. Saul, do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Please state your name and job title for the record.
John Saul, store manager.
Hey, Max. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the tail end of that.
John Saul, store manager.
And Mr. Saul, I have a mailing address on file for your company, and this is for unemployment purposes only, listed as P.O. Box 283, care of Talks UC Express, St. Louis, Missouri 63166. Is that the correct mailing address for your unemployment agent?
Honestly, I'm not sure about the unemployment agency. That information wasn't given to me by Human Resources as far as where that information is mailed.
Okay. Well, sir, this is the company that did respond to Louisiana Workforce Commission on your company's behalf.
Okay.
Okay. And Mr. Saul, do you understand the hearing procedures and appeal rights which have been explained?
Yes, ma'am.
And since there are no questions from the claimant or employer's representative, I will now review the evidence and documents in the record. Mr. Stahl, I'll swear in your witness when he is called to testify. The agency exhibits that I do have will include agency 1 through 5 is the claimant's application for benefits. This application was filed on February 17, 2017 with an effective date of February 12, 2017. Also included in the record is agency 6 and 7. This is the employment history detail report. The claimant reported that he was an employee of FedEx Ground Packaging Systems Incorporated from September 17, 2016 through October 8, 2016. He was a part-time employee. He earned $11 an hour. He voluntarily left employment or quit employment. The reason was transportation. Also included in the record, will be agency exhibit number 8 through 10. This is the unemployment claim and the unemployment claim documentation. This is in the record for reporting purposes only. States that the claimant's monetary eligibility. Agency exhibit number 11 and 12 is the separation information request form. It was forwarded to the employer's unemployment agent. Agency 13 and 14, 13 being the rationale, 14 being the issue detail report, where the analyst documented. The employer states last day work was November 3rd, 2016. The employer states the claimant quit due to job abandonment by failing to report to work as scheduled. The claimant did not respond to the agency as requested for additional information on the separation. Therefore, available information indicates the claimant quit without good cause attributable to a substantial change made to the employment by the employer. Once again, agency 14, the issue detail report 15 through 17. The disqualifying separation determination, mail dated March 23rd, 2017, forwarded to the parties, advising the parties that the claimant had been assessed a disqualification for benefits. The claimant left employment when he failed to report back to work. The claimant's leaving was without good cause attributable to a substantial change made to the employment by the employer. Agency exhibit number 18 through 20 is the appeals case information. This will also be accepted into the record as the claimant's request for appeal. It was timely filed on March 23rd, 2017. 21 and 22, the acknowledgement of the claimant's appeal. This is mail dated March 29, 2017, forwarded to the parties, advising the parties that the claimant had filed an appeal with Louisiana Workers Commission. Agency exhibit number 23 through 28 will be the notice of telephone hearing for today's hearing, both copies. This document is also mail dated March 29, 2017, forwarded to the parties, advising the parties of today's hearing and that the issue to be considered here today is whether the claimant left employment with legal good cause, and that good cause attributable to a substantial change made to the employment by the employer. There are no other documents to read into the record at this time. I'll open the floor for objections. I will remind the parties that an objection is that you are asking me to exclude a document that I have read into the record. You are asking me to exclude a document from the record. There has to be a legal basis for the exclusion. Other statements will be deemed testimony. They are not accepted at this time. Mr. Stahl, do you have any legal objections to any of the documents that have been presented?
You stated that one of the documents stated the first date of employment was 9/17.
Let's see, yes. Employment history detail. This is based on what the claimant reported 9/17/2016. That can be clarified with testimony.
Yes, the actual date of hire was 9/29/2016.
Okay. So noted for the record, that can be clarified with testimony. That's not a reason to exclude this document. Yes, sir. Any objections, any other objections, Mr. Saul?
No, ma'am.
And Mr. Coleman, any legal objections to the record, sir?
Yeah, you said I left because of transportation. No, I made a report to the company and things like that about unfair treatment and things like that from the company. And I reported it and documented it. I talked to a lady, I forget her name. I don't have it on my paperwork in front of me and things like that right now. And I spoke to her and we went into a room where we talked about the issues and things like that.
One
with the
moment, sir.
okay.
Transportation, stating that the claimant left employment for transportation issues that can also be cleared up with testimony. That is also not a reason to exclude a document from the record. That can be cleared up with testimony, sir. Any other objections before we move forward?
No.
With neither party given a legal basis to exclude any of the documents, all documents presented are admitted in for docket number 00506382217. Let's begin with testimony, beginning with Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman, we begin with the claimant and leaving situations. Here, I'm showing that you reported that you were employed with FedEx Ground from September 17, 2016 through October 8, 2016. Is this information correct, sir?
I don't know the exact employment date or hire. If he said the 29th, then he would know more than I would. So if it's the 29th, then it's going to be the 29th.
Your work was October 8, 2016?
Yeah, I mean, I reported an incident and things like that. It may be that last day of October the 8th.
Was that your last day worked?
I don't know for sure.
And what was your job title?
Packaging.
Were you full-time or part-time?
Part-time.
How much did you earn an hour?
Anywhere between $10 and $11.
And let's talk about October 8, 2016. Why was that your last day work?
Because I reported unfair treatment from the company and the manager, Mr. Shaw, John. We both got man boobs. I don't know why. And things like that. I mean, I reported unfair treatment. I wrote a whole, like a little page document. I called the company and things like that, so they should have that on file. It was just unfair treatment from the company and how I was being treated as a worker.
Okay, so on October 8, 2016, you reported that you were being treated unfairly.
It was way before October 8th. It was probably like around October 1st or so. I don't have the exact dates, so I can't tell you exact dates if I don't know for sure. But I know I reported it.
Okay, on or about October 1st, 2016, you reported that you were being treated unfairly. Who did you report this to?
FedEx Corporation, the corporation hotline, 1-800 number.
And who did you allege was treating you unfairly?
The manager and some of his associates and just mostly management.
So when you say man, who did you name?
John, the man on the phone right now. What you mean?
Mr. Saul?
Yes.
And what did you allege in your complaint when you said treating you unfairly?
Just about weight, size, just making like little remarks and things like that.
What type of remarks, sir?
About my man boobs, about me being, fat and things like that. About my production. Just treated unfairly every time I come to work. I mean, it was just some BS.
Okay, you have to be more specific, sir. So he made comments about your weight, indicating that making comments about, your physical.
Yeah, my physical, like how I look and things like that, how I dress and things like that.
Let's address that first. So when was the first time that Mr. Saul made a comment about your physique?
I will say on the second or third day of hire, when I actually worked.
Okay, so when was the first time that you reported this to management?
I reported it to management. I reported it to the 1-800 number.
When?
Actually, I don't know the actual dates. That's what I'm telling you. I don't have the actual dates in front of me right now.
Okay, well, sir, did you receive the notice of telephone hearing for today's hearing?
The notice of telephone hearing, I don't have internet, so I couldn't really receive like the notice, directly in front of me and things like that.
Were you aware that the hearing was this morning?
Yeah, I was aware that the hearing was this morning.
Okay, so the questions that I'm asking you, sir, these will be questions that you should be prepared to answer based on your own statement that you left this job due to unfair treatment. That's the only thing I'm asking you about is the unfair treatment that you allege you received. So I don't understand why you're not prepared to answer those questions.
Well, I'm asking the questions right now. I just don't know the exact dates and things like that.
That means that you're not prepared if you can't.
Well, I guess I'm not prepared. I mean, if you're going to say I'm not prepared, then I'm not prepared. But I'm telling you what happened. I mean, I got to record it on the phone. They got to record it. I mean, I made documents and things like that. So if you do an investigation, that means you should go in there and then you're gonna hear the recordings. Okay, well, I'm just telling you then.
Well, no, sir. That's not
Fuck
how we're
you
going to
mean,
conduct ourselves today. I'm not doing an investigation, sir. I'm conducting a hearing. I'm asking questions.
Okay, but I'm telling you, if I don't know, I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you if I don't know.
Let me just explain what the burden of proof in this case is, okay? In a leaving situation, the burden of proof belongs solely to the claimant. The claimant must show that they left employment with legal good cause, and that's good cause attributable to a substantial change made to the employment by the employer. In establishing that legal good cause, the claimant must testify to the events that they allege caused the substantial change. In testifying to the events that they allege caused the substantial change, they have to give a time frame.
Well, I don't have a time frame. I know that I made a report. So if you go back to the company should have the report down, and it's going to tell you the whole time frame and story right there.
It's not their burden.
But I'm just saying, I asked for copies and documents of the report. The company wouldn't give me no documents. They wouldn't give me like what I asked for. I mean, how can I get it if the whole company I can't get it from them? They got it.
Speaking loudly and speaking over me, that's not helping your case here, sir. So we'll move forward, sir. So you stated that Mr. Saul made comments about your physique, and you're not sure when those comments started. And
the comments started October 1st. The comments started 3 days after I worked. If I got hired on the 29th, then what's the next month on the 29th?
Okay, so they started October 1st.
No, not October 1st. The 29th. For 2 days from the 29th.
Okay, and you stated that you reported this to the FedEx.
Yes, I reported it to FedEx Ground, to the corporation, the 1-800 number.
Okay, and what was their response?
They said they're gonna look into it, and then they looked into it, and they said they're gonna do an investigation, all that stuff like that. And after that, I talked to another manager, and we went into a room. We talked about it together, and things like that. And then after that, I just told her I didn't feel comfortable at the company no more, and things like that. I didn't, maybe I should, get a new position or, just not work for them no more because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel, that I was being treated fairly and things like that.
Besides for Mr. Saul making comments about your physique, how else were you treated unfairly?
It was about my physique, my production of work and things like that. It was just how I would do one trailer, all by myself, and everybody else would just sit around and, be on water breaks or just sitting there and things like that. I mean, as associates, if you got one against 100, who gonna win?
So you were made to work by yourself?
Yes.
Did you get breaks, sir?
No, not as often as I, wanted to.
So you got 1 or 2 breaks throughout your workday?
Probably just one.
And were there any other mistreatments besides for Mr. Saul allegedly making comments about your physique and Mr. Saul addressing your productivity?
Just going by and, telling other associates this and that about me and things like that.
This and that. What is this and that?
Just discussing me and talking about me and things like that.
So Mr. Saul was using profanity towards you?
Not profanity, but just telling other workers, well, you don't have to work on that trailer. Just go to this trailer. Y'all work together and things like that. Let him work by himself.
And you stated that you reported this to FedEx Corporation?
Yeah, I reported it to FedEx Corporation.
They told you that they would look into it and launch an investigation?
Yes.
What was the outcome of that investigation, sir?
I don't know. I talked to the woman, Like at the investigation, I talked to a woman in the office, and I told her I didn't feel comfortable with the company and things like that, and how this happened to me and this happened to me. And after that, I was asking for, I said I'm gonna go ahead and resign now, and I was asking for the documentation. I called every day, asking for my reports that I made, and she made a report in her office, and she said she had to talk to a higher level because they never had nobody ask for, reports that they had made and things like that. So
you resigned before this employee could launch an investigation?
I resigned when I talked to her. After I talked to her, after the investigation was all way through and things like that, and she said that she investigated and things like that, and she's gonna handle the situation, which wasn't handled. I resigned. I resigned about 2 days later, and I asked for my documentation of the reports that I made.
And the reason I'm asking that, Mr. Coleman, is when you have an issue with your employer, just in your case, if you have an issue with your supervisor, you are to place management, upper management, on notice that you do have this issue that is causing you duress at your job site. But in that, you also have to give the employer a reasonable opportunity to rectify the situation.
Yeah, and I did that, I contacted somebody that's higher than him. So that's the reason why I went through the steps that I went through.
Yes, sir, but you also stated that you left employment before the investigation.
Well, no, the investigation wasn't over. She said that she investigated into it and things like that, and that I had my work, and she said she's going to handle it. So the investigation, to me, the way she was talking, the investigation was older, and she already investigated and things like that. The investigation was already went through. And so that's when I said, okay, since the investigation done, then I want to resign, and can I have my documentation that I had reported the issue?
What was the outcome of the investigation? What did she tell you?
She just told me that she took care of it. It's going to be taken care of. We're not going to allow that and things like this and this and this. And that's all that was said to me.
What is this and this?
Well, she said that she's not going to allow that. And so it was, the investigation was over with. And she said, I didn't want you to leave the company, and things like that. So, I mean, and that's all that happened.
Okay, so if she said to you that this matter was handled, it will not happen again, why did you leave employment during that conversation if this employer is telling you that the matter has been...
Because I went back to work a couple of days later and things like that. I went back to work, after that, it was, I worked for about a week after that, and it was still like the same thing, I'm
confused, Mr. Coleman, because initially you told me you left employment when you talked to this person on the phone.
Right. No, I didn't talk. I talked to her face to face. I talked to the 1-800 number first, and then I talked to her face to face. So a week after that, when I resigned and things like that, I talked to her face to face, and I was still working it, and it still seemed like nothing was taken care of. I mean, she told me that it would take care of, but it wasn't.
What was still happening?
I mean, it was still like the remarks and things like that. I was still working in the trailer by myself, wasn't really getting no breaks and things like that. And so I was like, well, this is BS, so I'm just gonna resign. And then I called over and over to the companies. I called over and over, and I asked for my documentation.
I have no further questions for you, Mr. Coleman.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Coleman?
No, ma'am.
No further questions for you, Mr. Coleman. I'll move to Mr. Saul. Mr. Saul, the record shows here that the claimant was employed with FedEx Ground from September 29, 2016 through October 8, 2016. He was a part-time packaging employee. He earned $11 an hour. Is that information correct, sir?
Not truly. The first day of hire was 9/29, September 29th.
Yes, sir.
His last date that he physically clocked in was October the 14th. And his pay rate was $10.95 an hour. And his separation date was 11/3, 11/2. Should have been.
Why did the claimant separate from employment with your company? What was going on there?
His separation was for job abandonment. He missed a couple of days, and he contacted us stating that he couldn't work in the mornings, that he needed to work a different schedule. We had openings on the PM side. I contacted the manager, Jason McNulty, that's here with me right now, and let him know of the change, and he was going to contact Mr. Coleman. He contacted him, and he didn't get any answer several days in a row. And after that, we went forward with documentation per company policy on attendance, and the information was forwarded to Human Resources for review, and they signed off on the termination after that, the job abandonment.
When did Mr. Coleman request a change in his shift?
It was the week of October the 18th through the 22nd when he requested it.
And in requesting that change, did he also speak to you about some unfair treatment? He alleges that there was unfair treatment. There were comments that you were making about his physique, comments that you were making to other employees about him and his productivity. Were you aware of any of this?
I was aware of it, but he didn't make any comments to me.
And did you receive any reports from the Human Resources Department indicating that a formal complaint had been filed against you by Mr. Coleman alleging unfair treatment and also comments that could be deemed sexual harassment, comments that were made about his physique?
Yes, ma'am. HR did notify me of that.
And was an investigation open into this matter?
Yes, ma'am. It was reported on October the 1st. HR then tried to contact Mr. Coleman on October the 2nd. Received no answer. On October the 3rd, she contacted him again. She did speak with him at that point. And it was closed on October the 27th.
And when it was closed, what were the findings?
The allegations were found untrue.
Were there any changes to the claimant's hiring agreement?
No, ma'am.
Was continued employment available for the claimant?
Yes, ma'am.
And during the time period that the investigation was going on, that's the period, October 18th to the 22nd. Did the claimant make this verbal request to you about changing his schedule, or was this in writing? How did that request come in?
I spoke with him about it, and I told him we'll be in contact on the date he can start on that evening sort, because I had to make sure the communication was there with me and my manager as far as him transferring to that sort.
And so there was an evening position that was being held for the claimant?
Yes, ma'am.
And the comments that the claimant alleged that you made, speaking about, he references that you stated that he had a weight issue, he had man boobs. Were you making these comments towards the claimant?
No, ma'am.
I have no further questions for you, Mr. Saul. Mr. Coleman, any questions for Mr. Saul?
Yes. When I got the yes, hello?
Questions for Mr. Saul?
No.
Mr. Coleman, one moment.
No questions. No questions.
No further questions for you, Mr. Saul. I do have some follow-up questions for you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman, during the week of October 18th, 2016 through October 22nd, 2016, did you request a transfer to the evening shift?
Yeah, I asked about that. I asked the Human Resources about that and things like that when we was, going through what we was going through and things like that. And I saw, how I was being treated and things like that. So I asked, could I, move to a different shift because it was a different manager on that shift, So I could try something new and maybe, wouldn't be treated that way.
Okay, and Mr. Saul states that his testimony, and Mr. McNulty is here, that the position was held open for you, and they tried to reach you for the position.
No, I didn't receive anything about that. I was actually trying to get on a driver position. After that, I was trying to get on a driver position in a different state.
So is that what this is, that you did not want the position that you had? You were trying to get another.
No, that's not what it is. It's what happened. So that what made me be like, okay, I want to.
You're stating that you wanted another position
Yeah, so after all what was going on, I was thinking, well, I didn't want to stay where I was at, so maybe I should change shifts or get to a different or driver position or something like that. So I won't have to deal with what I was being dealt with
Well,
the
based on
treatment.
the testimony here, Mr. Saul said there was another position open for you on another shift.
Oh yes, but I didn't know anything about that position. I wasn't contacted. I didn't have any contacts. I didn't receive anything about that position being open or any calls. I mean, when I called up there, nobody said, okay, we have a different position for you and things like that.
Were you aware, Mr. Coleman, that this investigation was closed on October 27, 2016, indicating that there were no findings to support your allegations against Mr. Saul?
No.
And Mr. Coleman, did you clock in for this employer up until October 14, 2016?
Yes, I believe so. I don't know the actual clock dates, so I can't answer that right now.
No further questions for you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Saul, any questions for Mr. Coleman?
No, ma'am.
No further questions for you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. McNulty, do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Please state your name and job title for the record.
Jason McNulty, Operations Manager for the Outbound Afternoon Sort.
And Mr. McNulty, did you receive a request from your company for transfer to an evening shift for Mr. DeAdrian Coleman?
I did.
And did you make was the shift available for Mr. Coleman to work an evening shift?
Yes, ma'am. We were short-staffed at the time, and we needed some extra people on that shift.
And did you notify Mr. Coleman that the shift was available?
I did. Yes, I tried to contact him to give him the start times for that shift.
What were the outcomes? What was the outcomes of your contact with Mr. Coleman?
I could not receive any responses from Mr. Coleman at that time. I didn't receive any responses back.
Were you aware that the claimant, Mr. DeAdrian Coleman, filed a complaint against Mr. John Saul for unfair treatment?
I was aware through a hearsay of others that something was going on, but I was not aware of any details or anything like that. I just knew that there was a situation that was reported with Mr. Coleman with some comments that were made towards him, but I didn't know that it went to HR or any. I didn't know any of that stuff.
Were you present on the job site with Mr. Saul and Mr. Coleman?
No, I wasn't. I'm not on the morning sort. I'm on the afternoon sort, so I was not present.
I have no further questions for you, Mr. McNulty. Mr. Saul, any questions for your witness?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Coleman, any questions for Mr. McNulty?
Yes. What was the dates that you tried to contact me?
Yeah, the dates were Monday, October the 24th, Tuesday, October 25th, and Wednesday, October 26th.
And was that through phone, text, or via email?
That was through phone.
Okay, no further questions.
No further questions for you, Mr. McNulty. No further questions here. This is the portion of the hearing where the parties are allowed to make final or closing statements. Mr. Coleman, is there a final statement that you would like to make, or do you rest on the record?
Yes. Would I be able to have a copy of my report that I made and the report that I made to the Human Resources from the company, or no?
Is that a question? That's not a question that I can answer for you, Mr. Coleman. That would be something that you would have to direct to FedEx Ground Human Resources Department. We have we don't have any say in that.
No further questions.
Yes, sir. So that would be something that you would have to address directly to the company.
Okay, no further.
Do you have a final statement for today's matter, sir?
I just wanted to say that, you shouldn't treat nobody like that. I mean, people have hearts and people are trying their best, and it just hurt me.
Anything further, sir?
That's it.
And Mr. Saul, is there a final statement that you would like to make on behalf of FedEx Ground, or do you rest on the record?
I have one final thing. A closed note was sent via mail to Mr. Coleman on 10/27. The address was 4812 Stafford Road, which was the address that was on file. As stated.
A closed note, sir. What is a closed? A note stating that his employment was closing?
A note stating the investigation was closed.
I didn't receive it.
One moment, sir. Give me 1 second. And you say that was sent to, a closed note of the investigation was sent to the claimant?
Yes, ma'am, on October 27th.
Ma'am, and that's the address that your company had on file for the claimant?
Was the 4812 Stafford Road.
No further questions?
48124. 48124.
No further. Sir, Mr.
It's 48124. That's the address I have in front of me in Tickfall.
Yes, sir. No further questions for you.